Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm KeylowK, and today we're going to be rating the Thunder God. This build is created by the Ashen One. As always, I'll be going over the pros and cons of this build and giving my opinions on it. If you don't know who the Ashen One is, then I suggest you go check his channel out. That should come up on screen right here. This content creator specializes in creating his own unique Elden Ring builds. He also has content on other From Software games like Demon Souls and the Dark Souls series, and so much more. He streams over on Twitch as well, so go show the man some love and watch some of his content or sub to his channel. I know he would appreciate that. Also, if interested, you can purchase ruins, weapons, talismans and armor at aoa.com, and while you're there, use code KeylowK to get 3% off any purchase. Anyway, if you want to know how I rate the builds I make content on, then it will be in the description section of this video. Also, I don't mean any ill intent or harm to these creators, I just thought this was a fun idea to bring to life. Anyways, as always, let's get it! Not gonna lie, this build here looks epic in my opinion. I was reading the description of the armor, and well, the Drake Knights really were monster hunters, taking down dragons and using their hides as armor, as reflected in the Drake Knights armor set in this video. I love the details of the claws / horns on the armor. The cape also looks incredible in my opinion, because it's literally a wing of a dragon, and the color scheme is really appealing to me. The detail that I do like, and don't ask me why, but it has to be the horn on the knees. I just think they look dope in my opinion. The boots are a bit lackluster, but it is what it is. The weapon for this build is the Bolt of Grandsax +10, and you get this in the capital city of Lindale. You will need to defeat Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, the shiny version. Then from the Erdtree Sanctuary side of Grace, go out of the doorway with the stairs leading down to an elevator, follow them down and around, then jump over the railing to climb the spear. That's where you will find the Bolt of Grandsax. With all that being said, I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10 for drip. Anyways, on to the next one. Let's get it! The starting class for this build is the Vagabond. This is also a Dex and Faith build. The Ash of War is the Ancient Lightning Spear. There are 3 talisman set options for this build, depending on how you want to play it. Option 1 is for a great balance between the AOW and incantations, as the Ashen One says. The Shout of Alexander, the Flock Canvas Talisman, Godfrey's Icon, and the Lightning Scorpion Charm. Option 2 is heavily focused on the AOW, which you would switch out the Flock Canvas Talisman to the Ritual Sword Talisman. And then option 3 is heavily focused on the incantations, which you will change the Shard of Alexander and the Ritual Swords Talisman to the Flock Canvas Talisman and the Faithful Canvas Talisman. And to further increase the damage of lightning incantations, you will need to have 2 Gravel Stone Seals, one in your offhand and one in your main hand. I did not have 2 seals for this build, so I got one of my mates to drop another Gravel Stone Seal to me, and both of those are +25 as well. We will also test out all 3 options in this video, so this one may be a bit longer than usual. The incantations for this build are Golden Vow, Howl of Shabriri, Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike, Frozen Lightning Spear, and Lanciex Flave. I probably butchered that, excuse me for that. In the physic, this build is rocking the Lightning Shrouding Crack tier, and you can pick between the Opaline Bubble tier or the Green Burst Crystal tier, depending on how you want to play this build. There is no spells for this build, the level for this build comes to 200, and all the stats will come up on screen right here. Anyways, that's enough of that, let's get into the content. I wanted to try the third option for the talismans to see the damage potential of this build. So let's see the damage output we can get with some incantations. We're going to try Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike on our test dummies. That is insane damage. So I take the physic, I use Golden Vow, then I use Howl of Shabriri. And we're going to test out Frozen Lightning Spear and the rest of the incantations. So let's get into it. Oh my god, that is crazy. It's amazing the damage output this build can do. I drink a blue flask just to gain some more FP. Dodge. Now I'm trying Lancier's glaive, excuse the pronunciation, and that's solid damage as well. Sheesh. And last but not least, a fully charged lightning spear. Sheesh. As you can see here, I'm using option 2 for the talismans. I wanted to showcase how OP the Ash of War can get while using the talismans and using all the buffs as well. So let's get into it. I use the charged lightning ancient spear and look at that insane damage. So good. I thought I was going to get hit here, so I was panic rolling, not gonna lie. And in this one we are fighting Godfrey with the option 1 of the talismans up on the top right hand corner. I thought I would show the talismans on this because it would be easier for you guys to understand what talismans I'm actually using to create the damage output like this. You'll see that I've also 2 times the speed and this last clip here because it does get a bit longish, and with creating content, time is your best friend. But within saying that, let's get into this content. I do the Ash of War. The damage is so good. It's really good. Also, I did die a few times on here, so it is what it is. Personally, I try to give the best clips that I can possibly get so that it gives you guys the best experience for the content. Now this is something that I have noticed while playing this build, is that if your character is facing towards us and then you do the Ash of War like this, it completely misses the opponent. This is just something to mention. And then he does a power bomb on me. I'm just running away trying to gain some space. I heal myself up. I dodge, jump, get out of there. Ash of War. He's almost dead. Ash of War again. Oh damn. Ash of War. Oh, I got smashed on that one. Close one. Dodge. He's gonna do that jump. Dodge. And then Ash of War. Oh, I thought he was dead. Sheesh, she got me. I'm almost dead now. That takes off so much damage, man. He got me again. This is like WWE for him. He's just smashing me around everywhere. And GG's. That was lucky. The biggest highlight for this build is the damage output potential. Some incantations with all buffs and the Physicon can get up to roughly 5k damage and more, and the incantation with the least damage with all buffs does about 2k damage roughly. Then you have the AOW, and that comes to 1.2k without it being charged or using the buffs. Then a charged AOW is about 2k, and if you have the buffs on while it's charged, then it can get to 4k and up. Also, the AOW is basically the sniper of Elden Ring, so this is extremely good in PvE. All the melee attacks are really solid attacks because of the range of the spear. Although it can be tanked by bigger enemies, it's still a really good tool for smaller enemies. If you really wanted to, you could just spam the AOW to get to Elden Lord with this weapon. Also, the AOW doesn't take much FP as well. Also, some of the incantations don't take much FP as well, so that's a win-win for this build. Now for the cons. As mentioned before, the melee attacks can be tanked by larger enemies. This is basically the only con to this build in my opinion. With that being said, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10 for PvE. Anyways, on to the next one. Let's get it! Just so everyone watching knows, this build was made for PvE. So with that being said, let's get into the content. For this run in PvP, I wanted to test the weapon out one-handed and to try out some incantations. Also, we've gone with option 1 for the talismans as well for PvP because it makes the most sense in my opinion with this build. I mean, I could use the other options for the talismans, but I think in my experience from my past videos, I will only be able to use some incantations because there will be a lot of drawbacks such as slow animation startups, also slow recovery animations. So once I finish the incantation, then it's trying to recover or it's trying to get back to a neutral position. So anyways, enjoy the rest of the content. And running R1. GG's. Whoops, my bad's for not emoting, dude. Whoops, I wasn't supposed to do that. I emote. I do frozen lightning spear just to try it out, and sheesh, that looks damn cool. I do lightning spear, I dodge. That Ashen One is pretty good, not gonna lie. When he does it again, I dodge, then press R1. I press R1 again. I'm using lightning spear just to try keep him guessing, really. I had a feeling he would come in. I used R1 but it was just a bit too slow. He does try to attack me but I dodge. I then see an opportunity to use running R1, then I roll catch him. I use lightning spear again to keep him on his toes. I don't know what's happening here, just waiting for an opening in the neutral game. Decide to run in R1. I use lightning spear. I see him using the darts again, so I do running R1 and I get him. I roll into him just to see what he will do. I try to use my incantation, but I've run out of magic. We trade in the end. He almost beat me, but GG's. In this battle here, I decided to two-hand the weapon, just to see whether there was a difference between doing that and just using it in your right hand, that's all. The running R1 is a little different. It's more of a half horizontal attack, which is good because it changes things up a little bit. Right now we're just sussing each other out. I'm assuming that's an Ashen One. I haven't used that weapon just yet, so it looks pretty cool, so yeah. So now that I see that, I have to watch out for his counter attack. As you can see, we're sussing each other out, seeing what we will do. Now I know that this player has the Redugia, so now I have to watch out for that.
That's a lot of damage!
I'm running R2 and he does Blood Blade and actually catches me off guard, to be honest, because I did not expect the spam, but it happens. I'm trying to use my range here. He keeps spamming Blood Blade. I decide to use the weapon one-handed just so I can use the incantations again. I use lightning spear. I thought the range would get him, but it did not. I did not expect to get that, but I did. GG's. And just like always, we don't always win them all, but here are some of the losses. R1, running R1 and lightning spear are going to be your go-to attacks on this build. The weapon does have pierce damage to it, so it can be good for trading, but the build is not optimized for trading. R1 combo or R1 spam is a good poking tool to keep your opponents from coming in too close where this build is weakest. To get the most damage from your weapon, you're better to two-hand it as it gives you just that little bit more damage. The range on this weapon is extremely good as well. If someone uses magic, you can trade with lightning spear if you're fast enough. This build kinda reminds me of a hit and run playstyle in PvP, but don't quote me on that, I may be wrong. It just felt like it, that's all. Now for the cons. This build tends to run out of stam, so it's something to watch out for. The physical attacks on this weapon are on the weaker side damage wise, so that's another thing to mention. R1 can also be tanked on this build, so that's something else to mention. Also in PvP, most of the incantations you probably won't use. The main reason is because of what I mentioned in the beginning of PvP. So with that being said, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10 for PvP. Anyways, on to the next one. Let's get it! So this is the moment you've all been waiting for. let's check out the final score. For Drip, I gave this a 7.5 out of 10. For PvE, I gave this a 9 out of 10. And for PvP, I gave this a 7 out of 10, giving this an overall score of 23.5 out of 30. This build's potential for damage output with the incantations and AOW is insane. And its biggest highlight, this build has versatility for most situations. The range of the weapon is also top tier, and the overall look of this build, in my opinion, is outstanding. It does have one or two weaknesses, but the pros of this build outweighs the cons in my opinion. I would definitely play this build again, and it is a top contender for a DLC build. This build can easily be played by a beginner or an expert player of the Souls community. Anyways, if you like the content, then please give this video a like and a sub to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me, and it would really help the channel out too as well. Anyways, everyone, have a blessed day or night, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!